down there. Hey, Wes, you're ready. Okay, welcome everybody to City of Sunbury's Parks and Recreation Committee meeting for May 3rd, 2023. It is 5:30 p.m. Roll call, Amber.
Mr. Ghost,
Here.
Mr. Martin,
Here.
Mr. Grumney.
Here.
Three present.
And approval of minutes. Our last meeting was April 5th, 2023. We have
Motion to approve.
motion by Mr. Martin,
Second.
second by Mr. Grumney. Discussion. Roll call.
Mr. Martin,
Yes.
Mr. Grumney,
Yes.
Mr. Ghost.
Yes,
Three yeas.
thank you. Daryl or Steve, should we do a minute approval? Or do we have any for the open houses?
We don't have any written. We actually didn't have a format item one of those, so maybe we should at least note, we just had you. Both, so. Maybe for the next meeting, we'll at least note.
Okay,
That maybe met as a subcommittee to receive public comment. Okay, like that, I'm gonna do that.
okay, very good. All right, let's go to the visitor section. I do see one visitor out there. Would you like to speak? Or just here to listen? Okay, very good. All right, thanks for coming, by the way. Unfinished business, first item up, our big item here, J.R. Smith Park. So I think as everyone knows, we had our open houses, a Thursday and a Saturday, a couple of weeks back. We did get some visitors. That was good. We got some feedback. We had the sign up boards, the idea boards, comment boards. I think this must be Amber's compilation.
Dan actually put that one.
Dan did?
together for
Okay.
us. Those
Dan.
are all the emails we received.
I see. Okay. Dan with CT. So you see some of the comments here. Wes, would you like to discuss further at this point?
No real comment, just that this is a compilation of all the feedback that we received from the public meetings. Certainly, we're gonna look at all these and take those into consideration, and the committee may wanna read through these and just see if there's anything here that impacts our current plan that you may want to revise based on the input.
Yeah, I was there for both. We talked to several residents and that were interested in the park. You can see the information here. Some of the interesting things that came out of it. Number one, the Memorial Day event service. The first visitor on Thursday was Mr. Doherty, representing that group. And I think by the end of the discussion, it was my understanding that he was pretty happy with what we proposed with regard to using the renovated basketball court / pickleball as his location. And I think we agreed to look at running electricity out there for him, setting up the bleachers. And have you had any discussion with him since, Daryl?
Yeah, no additional comment from him or no additional discussion with him. What I would say is there was a little bit of discussion about whether, that would happen kind of in the parking lot near the basketball court, but it was his preference that it be up on the court to come and eliminate the grade change issues again that could impact some of the visitors. So yeah, I think at the end of the day, he felt like that would accommodate what they're trying to do down there on Memorial Day.
Yeah, that's good.
And he did add the flagpole as an additional item too. So we didn't have that on there.
Yeah.
As for what?
A
Flagpole. We're happy to do that. Yeah, sure. I'm glad you mentioned that. We hadn't had that in there. I'm glad we're going to do that. The other item, I think for the most part, the general feedback was the amenities that we are proposing in that conceptual plan are satisfactory. I think that's what they want to see. It's just what do we want it to look like? What kind of quality?
But one point, we talked about not putting a pickleball court there, but putting it at Freedom Park or somewhere else. But is it back on the table? And I prefer it to be there.
Yeah,
I didn't
because
know where we were with that.
yeah, it's my understanding we can create a dual court,
Right.
Multi-use on the same court, right? It
Yeah,
can be easily converted
Yes.
and that everything will be striped and ready for either one.
That's what's proposed.
Yeah.
Yep.
So based on that, it's kind of a no-brainer at that point.
I just thought the net might get in the way for trying to.
You can move those nets in and out. They don't have to be a permanent. There doesn't have to be a permanent net in place.
Yeah, so that's good. Playground, splash pad, amphitheater / pavilion. Seems to be, some interest in adding an amphitheater type look in some way, shape or form to the pavilion concept. I'd personally like to see that.
Mhm.
There's plenty of pavilions out there that have a little amphitheater side on one look. There's nothing major, but as this, you can tell it's a stage for minor performances or a music arts festival, something like that.
What about the comments wanting to keep lacrosse down there?
Yeah, that was going to be the one issue I was going to raise. I think we did hear, from not only folks before the event, at the event and after the event, just a little bit of concern about what might happen to that field for lacrosse purposes. So it probably would be worth our time thinking a little bit about Freedom Park and whether or not we could get the quality of that turf up to a place where they might be able to relocate those events over there. I mean, at least in the conversations I had with folks, they seem to think that if we did that, that may satisfy their need.
Yeah, we were in the same conversation with the lacrosse representative, and she mentioned that it seems to flood frequently when it rains hard out at Freedom Park. So he said, hey, look.
But they actually started at Freedom Park. So
Yeah.
the lacrosse in the area started at Freedom Park. Yeah.
We agreed to look at upgrading that specific field and doing some work out there so it's not flooding as much.
And they said as much. I mean, they did say, they had started out there. Again, the turf is better down here. That was really the reason they moved.
Yeah.
Again, so improving the turf really satisfies their need. Yeah.
Mhm.
I'm just curious if anybody had any insight into the comment 7 under email follow-up comments about the concerns regarding a splash pad and the Scioto Mile Park. And if anyone's familiar with what the issue is with that.
I am aware of that park, but I don't know anything about the issue. Wes, do you know anything about that at all? Have you heard anything about the sanitation issues with major issues with the splash pads? I'm sure there's some.
Yeah, we'd have to follow up on it.
I mean, they may have different challenges being downtown with a different maybe demographic that might access something like that. But I didn't know if there was something specific because someone did mention using a fountain, fountains instead of a splash pad. And just a couple other things I think kind of stood out. One is, and I do agree. So if we make this a family place, I think we have to think about slightly older kids too and activities for them. I mean, we got the basketball court, but somebody in that 8 comments said, children 18 to 15 years old to keep them in mind because if, as a family you go to the park, it's great that the 3-year-old can play on the equipment, but what does the 8 or 9-year-old do other than run around in the grass? So, are there things that we can offer that attracts the whole family?
That's a good point. They mentioned here, older kids like the zip lines or the round swings with a bungee or a climber or a climbing wall. I think I would like CT to look into that if you could, Wes. Maybe some amenity or two for the teenager.
So teen level kind of.
I would almost say pre-teen, probably it says between 8 and 15. 15 is probably getting on the higher side as far as want to play in a park, but I think between that 7 and 12, I would think right around that age would be something an age range, I think.
If we have a zip line, are we opening ourselves up to some horrendous liability issues?
I'm sure we are.
I'm sure that
I'm
would be
looking at the insurance company when I ask that.
We'd have to have people sign whole harmless agreements every time they jumped on there, but
There could be some park equipment, more of a climbing type park equipment. I know Orange Township put some in, it's more of a web climbing triangular pattern.
Have you ever been in the
And they have quite a bit of that at the Methodist Church here.
Yes.
Some pretty neat climbing stuff. So
Yeah.
I took my granddaughters there. they just had a blast, so.
I also know the Westboro Rec Center, I don't know if anyone's been in there, but they have it's almost like.
Yeah. I was in there.
Ultimate, Ninja Warrior type of setup where like it's an obstacle course running down parallel.
Yeah.
With, climbing
Yeah.
and jumping and that kind of stuff. I mean, I know that would be something.
They have that at the Methodist Church.
Okay.
Our visitor, I think he's knowledgeable. Can you speak into the microphone up here? And we do have to get you on record. State your name and address and give us some feedback.
Yeah, Eric People, 8952 East Liberty Road. So I live out in Marengo, but my kids and my ex-wife live here in town. So I have a lot of investment into the town and the development that goes on. But the zip lines, they're, as long as you purchase them as play equipment and you do the playground stuff around them, you'd be totally fine. They're not liable. So
Okay,
it's play your own risk, just like any other play equipment. I mean, kids could get hurt if they don't do it the right way or whatever, but
Yeah.
the liability is not there. So
Have you seen any of those around locally?
yeah, I mean, there's a zip line there, United Methodist and
Well, they have one to Memphis.
Mhm.
Oh, okay.
Marysville has one and on theirs. So I used to be the Parks and Rec director in Marysville and now I actually work, I'm a recreation consultant for Mid-States Recreation. So I know a little bit about it, but it's more that I'm invested into the community. That's why I'm here, not so much just this, but my kids are here. They live right by J.R. Smith Park. So I just wanted to hear kind of the update from the park.
I think, were you at the Thursday morning session?
Saturday morning.
Saturday, okay, I thought that was you.
Yeah.
Look familiar. What was your name again?
Eric People,
Can you spell your last name?
Hinkle. I can give you a card here.
Oh, Hinkle, that's right.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other feedback for us in terms of amenities and what we might want to think about that we're not thinking about, Eric?
No, I mean, they're coming out with a lot of cool playgrounds now. I know you said 7 to 12. I mean, the older playgrounds are 5 to 12-year-old playgrounds. So
Mhm.
you can get a lot of cool stuff and playground features. Zip lines are cool. Some zip lines are a lot of maintenance if they're not straight line. So I found that out the hard way in Marysville, but
Is the one here at the Methodist Church straight?
it's straight. Yeah, so it's not a lot of maintenance. We have one in Marysville that's called a gravity rail. So it went down and spun around like a roller coaster and just wore bearings out like crazy. So
Okay.
it's a lot of maintenance. You want to do that. And the splash pad thing, I didn't hear the part you were asking about, so I didn't see the question, but we were looking to do another splash pad there in Marysville, but we were going to do just direct water. So right to waste, which is a lot easier. You don't have to get it certified through the health department. You don't have to have a certified pool operator license to maintain it if there's no reservoir of water. If they just have a button that they can go in and turn it on and it stays on for 15 minutes, but all the water goes to waste and they get new water all the time, then that kind of eliminates a lot of that headache of maintaining the chemicals and checking it on periodically and every day and keeping records and passing the health department stuff. So
have you been to the water park in Delaware at their park, their city
Yeah.
park?
Yeah.
Yeah,
and that's kind of direct to waste too there. You got to hit a button, it comes on for a while and then it
Right.
comes off,
yeah,
which so in Marysville, our current one was, we had a reservoir, so the water went down into a tank and then we had to treat it. So we had to test it for every 8 hours that it was on and all that stuff and keep records, and the health department had to pass it. Then they have to come in and inspect the equipment every year. They can do random inspections. So it's just,
Is there any health oversight at all by anybody with the freshwater system?
the freshwater system, no, if you just go right to waste, it, they don't regulate it because all the water that's coming out is fresh water.
Yeah.
So it's already treated water from your water plant and, then it goes to waste. So you're not reusing the water. But
What was the size of the pad in Marysville? Do you remember the
super small. So it was, maybe, I would guess 15 by 15 max. It was just ground play. So like it's just holding some ground that shot water straight up. And it was so popular, but I think when they designed it as a fountain more than it was a splash pad, but
Yeah.
it's free. And so we get the moms and dads that maybe off during the day and they want to bring the kids up there for free. And it became really, really popular. I think a lot more than what they thought. So
Do they have night lights for the fountains?
no, I mean, the park closed at like 9 or 10, just depending on when it got dark during the time of the year, but they try not to keep it open any later, so. And what they would try to do is like, I can't remember the exact regulations on the health department, but if it was. You had to test for every 12 hours it was on, they'd keep it on for like 11, so you test in the morning and then. You want to have to come back in and test in the evening, but then if you have to test, you also have to have an employee come in Saturdays and Sundays to test too, if you're going to leave it on.
That's right.
So we ended up moving one of our employees to Saturday, like in the summer, he worked Tuesday to Saturday. So we only had overtime on Sunday, but there's operational things that you got to consider too, if you're gonna do something like that. Which if you have 7-day coverage, then it's not a big deal, but just a little bit more to think about.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
Were you getting water directly from the city of Marysville?
Yeah,
Yeah, okay.
I was gonna say, we could just run a line from the reservoir down there. It used to be our water source in Sudbury, so.
Well, yeah.
Thanks, Eric. Thanks, Eric.
yeah.
So, I think our next step for planning purposes is going to be, this is going to be a major topic at our retreat coming up, I think a week from this Friday. So we need to digest this information and be ready to talk further in a week or so with the retreat and see what direction we want to go with the amenities and what they want to look like. And then we got to get the cost estimates going. And go from there.
Did you need anything for the retreat as far as?
No, what I would, yeah, but I was gonna say, we're definitely gonna talk about parks. I mean, I assume we'll dig into this a little bit, but I think we want to talk about parks more broadly.
Right.
At the retreat.
Right. Yeah, let's plan on getting something. Well, I mean, we're going to bring this at least, Wes. I'd like to see more cost estimates. If you could have some prepared.
Just an updated cost.
Yes, we had that one sheet at the open house, but that's a few years old. And I think we're looking at a little bit higher quality amenities this time around. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Anything further on J.R. Smith? Okay.
Not the forums, but we do want to talk a little bit about the lights.
Yes,
down there.
yes.
So
Next item. Yeah.
the next time.
Go ahead. Yeah.
So I've included in the packet, it's packet page 4, Councilwoman Cooper got a question from the Big Walnut Youth Baseball reps regarding the lights, the tall lights that are down there, maybe relocating those to the baseball fields at Big Walnut Elementary. So one of the things we talked about, at least put it on the Parks Committee agenda. So one, you're at least hearing that there's a request to do that. You know, we have had from time to time occasion when people have asked to turn on those lights. The football practice late in the fall last year, they did ask to turn on the lights. I was down there on Sunday when the lacrosse team was playing. It was overcast. They had the lights on. It was the middle of the day. Not sure exactly why they had them on, but not sure they needed them. But that might be something we want to just at least ask them a little bit more about why they had them on. But that said, I think the original plan actually was to take the light fixtures out down there.
Yeah, for the redo. But again, that's
Well, even as part of the original auction, I think last year, right?
We cut the option wrong.
what was that part of the auction?
So
Yeah, no takers. Yeah.
so, sorry, go ahead, Steve.
Go
I'm
ahead,
sorry.
Steve.
All I'd say is they're old and inefficient lights.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They should understand how much power it's gonna take and what they may have to do just for their power infrastructure. Be able to run those things.
Oh, are we looking to replace those lights then at J.R. Smith Park or not to have night lighting at all? Cause I'm just thinking going back to the, summer, and if you want to have if we do have a pavilion or what have you, and maybe there's a evening.
We do have plans for lighting, new lighting.
Okay.
It's
all right.
part of the
Yeah,
plan.
but not that.
Nothing.
Stadium lighting. right?
Not that kind of lighting.
Flashlights taped to a tree.
Right. Yeah, so, I mean, until we do the Gerald Smith Park redo, that's business as usual with regard to how we treat those lights now or not? Is that what you're asking?
Well, I mean, I think we do need to get back to the Big Walnut Youth organization with at least some feedback Again, I don't know that we have a strong interest in maintaining that down there because they're not necessarily down there because the city
They're
wants to
set
have
up
these
for the
lights.
baseball field and there's no baseball
Right,
played there
right.
anymore.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
Which is-
they're
yeah.
not used for the football or lacrosse. I mean, they use them, but they don't even light the place up well at the far end of the field.
And if
So,
they're on the auction
yeah.
block anyways to begin with,
Right.
why not? I think Steve brings up a good point, though. They understand what they're inheriting. If they do take them and for all the efforts made to.
Yeah, and one of Steve's comment again was they'll need a professional to help move them. I mean, it's not something volunteers ought to come down and disconnect lights and try to move them down.
Yeah.
Okay, so again, I think just trying to take the temperature of the group and make sure that you don't have a real strong objection to us at least working through the issues with the Big Walnut Youth Association.
I agree. I mean, if there's a way, shape or form for them to transport them, I guess at their own cost for the most part.
Yeah.
And their own liability,
I'd
then,
rather see them being used than sitting down there doing nothing.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay, we'll
but
reach
that's
out.
a thing council would have to react to as a whole, not just our committee.
Well, although council's kind of weighed in on that and said, go ahead and sell them at one point. So,
that's right. They were on the auction block.
yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I can take it back to council if you think we ought to have another
Well,
conversation with them about it.
Yeah, it's an item of worth something. And so council should have an opportunity to weigh in on that little discussion.
Okay. Well, let us do the additional research then regarding the football use last year and the lacrosse use. So we at least understand how they're using it
Right.
before we get this scheduled to come back.
But
to council.
lacrosse never has a night game that I'm aware of. It's
Yeah.
all, they put it on was because it was cloudy out. But it's, it's not a night game.
It wasn't that dark. but
Yeah.
Yeah, so. I don't know why they're- Okay, I think I've got a general sense of guidance on that.
Okay. Thank you, Daryl. Okay, next item on unfinished business, Reservoir Park update. We do have a new drawdown plan issue. I think Wes is pretty familiar, as is Daryl. We talked about this at the open house too. But, go ahead, Wes.
Sure, so I know you're aware of this idea and it's still being fleshed out with ODNR right now. No pun intended. Cole and Dan from our office just had an idea to run a storm sewer kind of across where the old former water plant sat over to North Vernon Street there and connect to a storm sewer. And I believe they've confirmed at this point that that can happen by gravity from that outlet structure in reservoir number 1. So there still is a meeting that they have scheduled with ODNR to talk that through a little bit more. One of the ODNR requirements, just if you think about any detention basin in town, that's part of a development, there has to be a free flowing emergency overflow, so it's unvalved. So if water level reaches a certain level, it would flow into that and out without anybody being there to open a valve or kind of unrestricted outlet, if you will. So that's one of the things with the outlet structure that they need to look at, but that piping route that you see is the route over towards North Vernon Street. The other thing that ODNR has, and I know Steve's been in the loop on a lot of this and Daryl's up to speed as well, but there's a few pipes that penetrate that embankment that need to be addressed as well. So the intent was to wrap this in to the park project and include that work with the park improvements. So that's just a brief update on that.
In terms of cost, I think we kicked around, what, 50,000 or so?
Yeah, if that's what Dan is looking at, I don't have that exact cost estimate in front of me right now.
Is that something we can have next
Sure.
meeting?
Yep, we'll get that. Absolutely.
Okay, anything you want to add to that, Daryl?
No, other than, I think Dan's estimate of 50 was not, it wasn't scientifically based. I think he was just trying to do it.
Okay.
Yes,
Range.
so stay tuned for the number.
And where are we on the reservoir fishing pier and docking station plans?
We're making progress. I actually asked Dan for an update on that so we can provide that. So I'd like to get that to you. this week or next week with a full update on the rest of the park improvements along with a bid schedule.
That sounds great. I'd like to see that in there, but is there a time frame, a deadline? Do we gotta have that
We
done?
have to have it bid this year and
Okay.
and underway.
Okay. Was the parking lot part of that as well?
Parking lot.
And the path, handicap path up to the
The
current
right,
path.
the path up to the top of the reservoir, the observation deck on Reservoir 2, and then the fishing platform on Reservoir 1.
right. Okay. Very good. And speaking of the reservoir park, we do have, skipping down to one item here, the other park update. New business fishing derbies this Saturday. Amber,
Tell them all about it.
working on that, 9 a.m. to noon. Sunbury Christian Church has been doing this for a number of years.
Yeah.
And 15 and under ages are free, right?
Yes. And they're gonna provide the poles and bait if needed, so if you don't have one, you can still go. So.
They're doing the food and the
They'll have hot
snacks.
dogs and chips, treats, they said, and they're gonna do some giveaways for biggest fish caught and littlest fish caught, so.
And we have no personnel that needs to be there, right? Employees or anything?
I mean, I'll be there all day, so.
Yeah,
Okay.
I think we just need to make sure the gate is open, and they didn't ask for a few cones. I think that will provide some traffic control cones, but mostly for the parking lot, I think. We have asked the city's the media services consultant to be on site, take some pictures, get some
Joe Thomas.
yeah, to
Okay.
get some footage
Okay.
that we can use for some later promotional materials. So
Excellent. I just checked the weather. It looks great. It's partly sunny, 75.
I'll be in Marion Correctional that day.
I'll be in Memphis.
Voluntarily.
Yeah, voluntarily.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Singing.
Yes, actually.
All right. Okay, very good. The only other item left here on our agenda is the Memorial Day Market Special Event Permit. Amber, Daryl, you have something for us there?
I will get it started. All right, so if you look at, can start with packet page 12. When the events committee put together what we call the decision-making matrix. So whenever there's a public event that involves the use of a public asset, there's this process for who weighs in on the approvals. And as you can see kind of in that upper top block there, for any flea market, there's kind of this internal review, admin, police, and the service department. Basically, what we're doing is checking to understand kind of what resources they need from us to put the event on. The events committee considers it next, and because this event ties up the square for the entire day, and actually a little bit of setup maybe the night before and late into the evening of the day of the event, it actually is one of those events that we bring to the Parks Committee as well. So that's why it's in front of you. And then back on packet page 5, you can see the application that's been submitted. This is our new application form for special event permits. Most of you, I'm sure, are familiar with the flea market and how it works, although I think they're changing the name, the Memorial Day Market. It'll be on Monday, May 29th. Time of the event, 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. Again, there could be some setup the night before, but tear down will happen later that evening. Maybe just a couple of points in the application. They will not require any special duty officers. They are saying that they're going to need to have a street shutdown, Granville Street from South Columbus to Vernon. But again, that's been consistent. I think we'll have
Is that for food truck operation?
yes.
Okay.
Which actually, that's a great point. So on that point, we have started, or the contractor has started the electrical upgrades on the square. So I'll remind them that they need to be done in time for this event. So this will be the first event where hopefully the new system will be in place and we won't have to have the kind of electrical connections we've had in the past, and we'll be able to hopefully eliminate the number of generators that are needed by the food trucks.
It'd be nice to see that get done. That's been an issue.
Yep.
A long time.
So we'll have a dumpster provided for trash. Again, we talked a little bit about city electricity, so they'll be connecting into the boxes. But the boxes on this side, on Granville Street side. Portable toilets on the square, but that also has been their practice in the past as well. So I don't think there's anything that's unique necessarily to this year's event. Amber, unless you think I've missed something. Okay.
Subcommittee, special event committees reviewed everything in there. Okay.
Yeah, so the events committee has approved the event, and again, we're passing it on to the Parks Committee just to make sure you're aware, and if there are any objections, let me know. But otherwise, if there are no objections, we'll continue to proceed with the organizers.
Any objections from the board? None here.
All right, sounds good.
Thank you, Darren. And Amber. Okay, nothing else on the agenda. Any other unfinished business?
Amber and I were talking about this. We probably should put this on here. So we won't meet again before the Memorial Day event that's happening down at J.R. Smith Park. So Amber, just want to give them a little update on
The bleachers, I talked to him a couple days ago just to verify we were still on his list.
Mr. Dory?
No, the company we're renting them from.
Oh, the bleacher company.
Yep.
Okay.
Everything is good to go. He'll be here by 8:30. So
Okay. How many are there roughly? So how many will it seat?
I think we got 200, didn't we?
200. So
Yeah.
there should be plenty of room for everyone.
Are they gonna be in the same location they've been in the past?
We're gonna try.
Yeah, I mean, they'll be down in that location because we need to be close
Might
to
be a little-
power.
Right,
Yeah.
yeah,
But yeah,
okay.
They had talked at one point, well, I guess with bleachers, it doesn't matter because he was concerned about a platform or something so everyone can see, but if you got the
Yeah.
bleachers, that should be a problem.
Yeah.
So should
Yeah.
be same as it was before.
And porta pot? Do we do porta pots for that, or do they do that?
Oh, we did not, and I haven't talked to Mr.
It
Doherty.
only lasts an
yeah.
hour
that
and
long.
they leave there and head up here to the Fallen Heroes Memorial and then up into the cemetery. They do 3 21 gun salutes along the way. They stop out here at the corner and do one. Then they go down at the Fallen Heroes Memorial and do one.
Mhm.
Then they go in and do one at the flag in the cemetery.
Yeah, that's
I don't recall a porta pot being there before.
this building will be open that day, right?
Yes.
Down the first floor, restrooms accessible. Yeah, okay.
Memorial Day?
Oh, yeah,
Typically,
yeah.
no.
Well, it's open for the event organizers. So
Yeah.
They have access.
Yeah.
So we
They have a key, but we don't just open
You're right.
it up. Because that's why they bring food trucks and then they also rent porta pots out for out here in the yard.
Well, they'll be
there you go.
there. Yeah,
They'll be out here.
same day. Okay. All right. Very good. Anything else?
So I've alerted the chief, again, the event begins at 10 a.m. And Mr. Doherty said they'd probably be leaving the park by 10:45-ish at the latest.
Right.
So that's consistent with kind of the timeframe that Mr. Martin has outlined.
Thank you both for addressing that concern for Mr. Doherty, and it's an important one, and you guys followed through
Yep.
marvelously. So thank you.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
I think he's happy. So that's good. Anything further? Motion for adjournment,
Motion to adjourn.
Mr. Grumney,
Second.
second by Mr. Martin. Roll call.
Mr. Grumney,
Yes.
Mr. Martin,
Yes.
Mr. Ghost.